Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the African Music Library Instrument Studies, a podcast where we talk about different African instruments and those that double down as genres. I'm your host, Kosomachku, and today we'll be talking about the Balafon, the age-long West African xylophone. Joining us to talk about this instrument is Paul Nas, a Dutchman with a huge passion for West African pentatonic balafon. Started off as a practitioner and then went on to become a teacher. He's also one of the few people in Europe who give group classes and still tries to enthuse people about this beautiful instrument. Please say hello to our listeners, Paul.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me for this podcast, and I'm very happy to tell the things I know about the balafon and about my passion today.
Paul also has developed a teaching method that is useful for all pentatonic balafon, suitable for home self-study of the traditional West African balafon music. You can check out his findings free on his website at www.paulnas.nl. Glad to have you on the show, Paul. Also with us today, we have Anu Onasanya, the director of the African Music Library, here with us to join on the conversation. Please say hello to our listeners, Anu.
Hi, hello Kosi, hello Paul. It's nice to be here today as a contributor, and I'm looking forward to the conversation with Paul. I must say that it's an intriguing one for me, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. Thank you, Kosi.
So I'm going to start with a personal question, right? Can you share with us your first encounter with the balafon? What drew you to this instrument? Because you could have easily chosen any other African instrument like the mbira, the dundu, or even the kora. So why the balafon?
Well, I'm now a number of years, let's say 15 years, busy in working on the balafon. And it started actually through the djembe. That the djembe and the dundun, they were my first African instruments. But at one point, I met the balafon, and it became my passion. And it's the only instrument beside the guitar that I play at home, that I play with the African music at this moment. After my first trip to Burkina Faso in 1997. And it was for a project that I visited the country, and I met, of course, the music during a festival there. But it was only after this festival that somebody handed over me some cassettes from the band Farafina, and it makes beautiful balafon music, and I was touched immediately by the music that they made. The beautiful combination, balafon with also the one snare violin and the flute. From that moment, I was very enthusiastic about the music of the balafon and orchestra in which it plays. So that was my first encounter, but it took some time for really starting to start playing the balafon. There was a couple of, I think a year later, when there was a festival in my town. And at that moment, so I was playing the djembe and dunduns, and I met a band also from Burkina Faso, and got to know them and talked to them. And they said, after the festival, we're going to sell all our instruments and make new ones when we're at home. So I wish them good luck with that. But at the end, they came to me and said, "Oh, Paul, we've sold all our instruments except the balafon. Why don't you buy it?" And so at that point, I bought my first balafon, but I was not planning to play it yet at that moment. So it was in my living room for a couple of months before I actually started playing the balafon.
That's very, very interesting. I also am aware of the Burkina Faso music group of Parafina, and your story about how you came across the balafon. It's quite interesting. You deciding to learn how to play this instrument is fascinating.
If I might jump in now. So I just wanted to ask Paul, After you got the Balafon, how did you learn to play it? I'm curious because now it's by perchance that you actually bought the Balafon. It was the last on the table and you had to pick it up. So where did you learn to play it? Because I'm sure this Burkina Faso group didn't stay back. So where did you learn to play it?
It was so the Balafon was in my living room for a couple of months, and then I was listening again to one of the cassettes of Parafina, and I heard a song that I thought, okay, I want to play this song. It's beautiful, and I want to try and find it on the Balafon. So that was I tried to find the notes on my Balafon in my living room, and I started looking for the music with it. So that was actually the start of my playing. After that, I had some workshops. I had a workshop in Holland and in France. Also, a year later, I went back to Burkina Faso, and I found somebody who taught me a couple of things on the Balafon. There was not really much time in this project where I was, but he helped me and he encouraged me with new things. And well, from the beginning, I recorded and I tried to write down all the things that I learned on the Balafon. And so that helped me to continue working on that when I was at home. Well, after that, I met Salia Traoré. He had a workshop in France, and Gert Kilian, he's also a European Balafon player that I had followed workshops with. And that was I bought a book as well. There is a nice short book about Balafon, and so gradually I started playing the Balafon from that time.
Beautiful. So meaning that is either you used to play musical instruments before the Balafon, or you to have tried it out. That means, so what musical instrument did you play?
I played the guitar. When I was a teenager, I got a guitar and I played some chords, and I like to sing. And during my life, there were several periods of time that I grabbed it again and started playing and singing again. So that was my Western instrument. But before the Balafon, I also played djembe and dundun for 10, 12 years before the Balafon. And in that time, I was also writing down all the rhythms that I learned and try to get a good insight in these rhythms and publish them as well on my website. Everybody can look up their rhythms. If they learn it from an African teacher, they can try to find something on my website similar and learn from that as well.
Thank you very much, Paul. That's very gracious of you, I must say that. I think I just want to chip in one more question before I hand over to Kosi. Usually in Africa, we have the mythology that sometimes you must come from a particular family to be able to learn an instrument. You have that very prominent in Mali amongst the Griot. It's very interesting that the journey that you've shared with us seems to debunk the myth. Okay, I just wanted to chip in that. Maybe not a question, but just wanted to chip in that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know you kind of spoke my mind with that last statement about Paul's effort to learn this instrument and play them, kind of debunks the myth of passing down the knowledge of this instrument from generation to generation in some of these West African communities. So thank you so much for that. Very intriguing, your story, Paul. But it kind of brings me to this question: why learn how to make the balafon? Because I know you know how to make the instruments. Because it's one thing to learn and master these instruments, but going that extra mile to learn how to make them, it's a new level of dedication. So why did you learn how to make the instruments?
It was after I started playing the balafon, I soon found out that this particular balafon, pentatonic balafon that I play, is best played with two balafons. And so one is playing like a basic pattern, and the other person is playing melodies, counter rhythms, improvisation, solos, and so on. So I thought I have to encourage other people also to play balafon, because I knew nobody who did that in the Netherlands. So I thought I'll try to buy other balafons on second-hand marketplaces, internet marketplaces in Holland, from people that were, as a tourist, brought back a balafon and wanted to sell them, and try to retune them in the same tuning as my own balafon. So I started knowing nothing, detaching a balafon in the hope that I could find a way to retune and remount the keys to the frame in the proper way again for another person to use that. In the time after that, I retuned and remounted a lot of balafons for my students, because one group after another started to be interested in playing the balafon. And though I had a lot of work, but it was still a lot of trial and error work. So I made a lot of mistakes. I had to do the work again and again. But at one moment I found some help as well. And later, when I visited Burkina Faso more regularly and found a balafon builder, Yusuf Keita, who was also my teacher in balafon, he helped me in the detail work of the balafon. So it was a necessity to learn to make and to retune balafons, actually.
Very, very interesting. Intrigued, I would say, that the efforts that you put into learning about African music traditions and instruments, it's well appreciated.
Paul, I'm just intrigued because you know that the balafon is locally sourced material, the calabash under the wood. So how do you source for these balafon items? Do you get them in Holland or you get them from Africa?
There are people who have visited West Africa who bought there a balafon and took it home. And they sold it again here in Holland when they were tired of it, because they never played it and it was in their living room for a couple of time, and they sold it. And so I bought a lot of balafons that I found, and much more than I needed, because also there were balafons that were not suitable for retuning. And so then I kept the keys and the calabashes. So I got a stock with that, with keys and calabashes, and I learned to make frames for balafon. So that was my first way of getting to balafons. Later, after the year 2010, I went regularly to Burkina Faso and Mali. And in the first years, I brought back a balafon for myself or for new students that was made there. Later, I took only the keys and the calabashes back to Holland and made new frames at home with these keys and calabashes. Yeah, that's the way. It evolved my getting balafons for students as well.
This is very, very interesting, speaking with you about your efforts in preserving this instrument. Still on the process of making the instruments, is there a modern and traditional way of making these instruments? If there is any, which one are you familiar with?
Well, I see it like this. There is the traditional balafon, like in Africa, well, everywhere on the world. When you find a piece of wood and you hit it, you hear a tone, and if you have two pieces and you have two different tones, so that can be an easy start for making a musical instrument, of course. And as I see it in West Africa, they still use the traditional way of making balafons in general. And you can say that in the rest of the world, perhaps the marimba, the xylophone, or the vibraphone, they are children of the original balafon idea. So I should say that those instruments are the modern types of what you can say of a balafon. But in West Africa itself, which I think is the area which the most evolved balafon types, because they are all over Africa. There are in Zaire, Mozambique, there are in Cameroon, similar kind of instruments. And but in West Africa, they are the most evolved, I think, and the ones that are now used by great artists, the really good balafon players in the world. The types they use is I think some kind of combination of styles from different ethnic groups in Burkina Faso and Mali and Ivory Coast together, that they mixed the styles of making a balafon into a very good type of balafon.
I also see people making balafon employ some of the Western tuning systems to make work easier, I would say. So thank you so much for that. For my next question, from a teacher's perspective, right? If I get all these materials today, how long would it take me as a new learner to make this instrument?
Well, I would say at least a month. If you have wood, like the wood of the keys, you have to chop it and form it and tune it. That's a lot of handwork. There is the calabashes. If you're lucky, you can buy them empty already. But if not, it's a lot of work to wash them out and to fill them with substances that eat the rest of the calabash contents out and have them dried. Also, when you're making the frame, there is no iron used in making a balafon. It's only wood and leather, so skin and rope. That's the only thing that is traditionally used. No iron. I don't use that either. So you have to beware of drying the leather. At one point, you have to attach the frame together with ropes of goat skin or cow skin. And you wet it because to shape it, and then of course you have to dry it to get the frame in its strength. So if you start from scratch, it would take at least a month.
I'm already considering learning how to make this instrument because I'm intrigued, but not due to personal encounters, because I've not really seen a balafon, although I've heard about it, I've read about it, but I've not had personal experiences. So thank you so much, Paul, for sharing your thoughts with us.
Kosi, just to add to what you say, I'm really challenged to pick up the balafon to go learn about it. But I have one quick question. Paul, how do you select the right resonator for the balafon? Because I know that this thing comes with the year, comes with training of the year to be able to get the right sound, the size in terms of, because if you look at the frame of the balafon, you see some big gourd, you see the small calabash, you see different sizes. So how do you train for that? We're able to say, okay, these are the best set of gourd or calabashes that I can use to give me the best sound. I know you said you made mistakes, you learn, but Now that you mastered to some extent, because 10 years is not a walk in the park, I must say that. So how do you identify the best resonators to use for the balafon?
Each gourd, each calabash below a key has to be tuned in the same tuning as the key above. And so it's not only the matter of size, because the bigger the size, the lower the tone. So you can use large calabashes for the low keys. So it's a matter of if you're building a balafon, you start, of course, with the keys. That's the first thing. You chop the wood or you select the keys, and that determines the dimension of your frame. And you're starting to make the frame, and then if you select calabashes, they have to fit in all, except at the end. Perhaps they can be a little bit out, but the most of them have to be inside the frame. Then you can tune these calabashes. So the size matters, but also the opening under the key, the opening on the calabash. The larger the opening, the higher the pitches of this this tone. So if you have a calabash and it's too low, you open it a little bit more with filing or whatever, or cutting a little bit, and then the tone, the resonance tone of the calabash goes up. So for tuning, I use a modern app these days. That's easy to use an app for finding the right key, tone for a key. But for a calabash, it's more difficult because there is more other sounds that are involved. So it has to connect with the key. And so if you're close in tuning the calabash and you hold it to the key while playing the key, you can hear a great difference in the sound and in the resonation of the key. So, and if you're hearing that, then you know, okay, then I'm okay with the tuning of the calabash.
Okay, that's beautiful. I think with this explanation, Paul, I'm a bit afraid that I might not be able to learn to make it, because with this explanation, the tuning, I think it's going to take a lot of training to actually get it. Yes, but adding it up, I must say that it must be a very good experience, because you can just imagine you press, you file, you tune, and then the sound keeps improving, and then the joy that comes with it, I can just imagine. Thank you very much. Back to Kosi.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paul. It's been an interesting conversation with you so far, sharing your experiences with us, giving us getting insights on the process of making this beautiful, magnificent instrument. So thank you again. We'll go in a short music break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. So, proceeding in our conversation, let's talk about history and origin of this instrument. Can you share with us the historical account or origin of this instrument? You know, the people, the purpose, the culture where they are found.
As I said before, that I think all over Africa, there have been initiatives for making an instrument with keys, with wooden keys. Wood is everywhere, and it often has beautiful sound. So it is hard to say really if you can point out an origin of the balafon. I know that for West Africa and balafon, I know the best. That's an very old tradition. It's hundreds of years at least that there are types of balafon used in West Africa, and I can imagine also in other parts of Africa that people do it also for a long time as they started to get interested in music, then and in using this music in their tribe or ethnic group. It was easy to think of something like a balafon.
Thank you for that, Paul. I know it's usually difficult to pinpoint the exact origin of many African instruments, and that's what the African Music Library is working on, trying to document, these stories and history, so we don't lose it in time, and so that we can be able to preserve it for the next generation to have an idea of what our history looks like. Let's go further into the societal context of these instruments. What's the role of the Balafon and the social fabric of the West African communities that they are found in? What role does it play, in ceremonies or social gatherings?
In West Africa, there are many ethnic groups. In Burkina Faso, there are already, I think, 40 or 50 languages with different ethnic groups, and only some of them have the cultural bonding with the balafon. Others have other instruments like bells or flutes or drums or whatever. And but in the ethnic groups where the balafon is played, is part of their culture. It's a very central part of the culture, and it's a central instrument in the orchestras for marriage, baptism, funeral, and other things. But also tribe rituals like inauguration or of important people in a village, like a new chief of the village or a chief of the grounds or something like that. Another thing is that the balafon is also used to accompany the work in the fields when planting crops, plowing or harvesting. Musicians of this ethnic group will join the people working on the fields, playing balafon and other instruments to encourage the work on the fields. So that's something as well. And a third thing is that the balafon is in West Africa is the melodies in that are often also songs that are sung with the balafon, and I like to sing the songs as well with my playing, and I try to learn these words and in the different languages of the Jula or the Boaba or the Bobo. And I'm not speaking those languages, but I want to sing the songs while I'm playing, and I want to understand it. So I always ask, what are these songs about? And I noticed that there are of beautiful life lessons in this cultural setting where they are played. It tells only a few lines, perhaps, in a song, but they refer to a story that is important in the culture of this group. And when the song is played, everybody remembers this story, and a few lines in the songs they refer to this song. So that's also a very important part of the culture of this group.
Interesting point. I also agree. African societies always have different use for different instruments, even though they can be found, in multiple cultures. Thank you so much for pointing that out, and also pointing out that the balafon is used for work. I remember a conversation we had with one of our guests about mbira, and he mentioned that the use of mbira during harvest to motivate the workers and keep the work going, and also during pasturing. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I think Anu has a question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. It's been a very interesting conversation, I must say that. I think one of the things that is intriguing for me is that aside learning the instruments, learning to play, learning to make, now you're now also learning the story behind it. That's very intriguing. It really shows that you have the passion for the balafon. I'm just curious, do you want to play? Do you want to do a sample play for us? Or maybe your balafon is not close by, and then maybe sing so that we can at least enjoy a moment with you.
Yeah, that would be nice. I will play something for you. I will play a small song that is about it's a good day, the harvest has been good, and you can see in the bellies of the children shaking on the dance that the harvest has been good. Okay, that was my small sample on in playing the balafon.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Paul. Just a quick question before we continue. What language is that, Bambara?
It is Jula, yeah. So that's a similar type of language as the Bambara, but it's more common use in also in communication between different ethnic groups. The Jula is a simplified version of the Bambara, you can say.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very interesting.
So yeah. Well, because I'm singing and understanding these songs, what they are about, it brings me also closer to the culture of the Balafon and the ethnic groups that are using it. I learn about their culture in learning their songs. So that's one of the things that I like very much in playing the Balafon and visiting Makina and learning more of these stories.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for that, Paul. I think this section kind of brings up another question that I might have. Speaking of the oral tradition, the singing and the storytelling in their songs, how is the Balafon connected to these traditions?
In West Africa, you have the tradition of the griot, the jelly, the music family in a village or in a community. This family always takes care of the music and the stories of the ethnic group that they're in. They are the storytellers, the musicians of a tribe. Some griots, they use the balafon as an instrument. Others use perhaps the kora or the ngoni, but also some of them use the balafon. And the music is brought over from father to child. And passing on this culture. And one child has more affectionate feelings for a balafon, other with singing or dancing. But within this family, it's always organized that children can learn again one of these instruments.
Interesting. I see how these stories and techniques of playing these instruments are passed down through generations. Thank you so much, Paul, for that. So let's lean towards the contemporary role. How has the Balafon's cultural role evolved in the modern society in these communities where they are found?
Well, when people move from a village to a large city, a part of the tradition might get lost because, in a village it works all different than when you're having a job in a big city and mixed with all other ethnic groups together in this large city. And but I see that several ethnic groups, they have still their celebrations also in the cities with these traditional instruments. And so also the marriages in the cities are not only with the sono and modern music, but there are still also a lot of using especially these traditional instruments. So I think there's hope for this tradition to keep up, even though modernization and more people getting into towns instead of the villages. Also, you see that governments in West Africa, they see the importance of their own culture. For instance, like the former colonialists are leaving, so there is a stimulus again for returning to these traditional values and music.
Yeah, interesting points there, Paul. I also see this instrument continue playing a crucial role in communities, no matter where they go, and also the role of the government, like you mentioned. We've seen that in the story of Afro-Manding genre from Mali, West Africa. So thank you so much for pointing that out.
I must say that it's been a very interesting conversation. As an African, I've learned from you. Very interesting. Just layering on the question that Kosi asked in terms of contemporary place, or will I say Balafon in the contemporary music. Do you see the Balafon influencing music in your country? So now you talked about organizing workshops, teaching, having students year in, year out. To some extent, have you seen Balafon music, instrument rather, having a place in the Dutch music?
Yeah, I have. Here and there, people are using balafons in modern orchestras. Sometimes that is difficult because the original tuning in West Africa, it's a tuning that can hardly be used for playing European instruments or Western instruments, because the tuning is not in the tones, in the notes that we have, but they use often in the tradition the equipenta or equiheptatonic tuning. It means that between two C's, for example, if you have a C major balafon, then the space is divided in 7 or 5 equal parts, and so there is no way of playing that together with Western instruments. But modern balafons are often also tuned in the tuning that is used here in Western music. So also my balafon is tuned in proper Western tuning. also pentatonic. But so there are possibilities for sure with other instruments, and here and there you see people trying to do that, because the balafon itself, if you hear that, it's a very specific sound with this buzzing sometimes, and so it's something special to add to Western music.
Good to hear that. So that also brings me to the question of, I know that the African instrument, most times you've seen that with the kalimba, yes, which you Tracy, a well-known ethnomusicologist from Austria, if I'm correct, had to change the mbira to be able to to be able to flow into the Western instrument orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that with time, because we also see that there's more interest in African instrument, do you think that with time, the original balafon sound might be lost in the contemporary world as more people tune it to be able to fit into Western instrument? Do you think so? Like maybe in the next decade or 2 decades, we might have that challenge with what we have with Mbira now?
Well, I think not. I think there's no real threat for that the balafon will disappear into modern things with modern playing techniques or modern making techniques. They're already there in making a marimba, vibraphone, whatever, xylophone. It's already there, and of course you can find more ways to improve those instruments. But it's great that there is still the traditional balafon and recognized as a special instrument. Also with this buzzing effect that sometimes the balafon have, that's very typical for a balafon compared to the clear or the dry sounds of the marimba, vibraphone, and xylophone. So I'm not afraid of that the balafon music will get lost, because the attention for the traditions and for special instruments is still there all over, and people want to use authentic instruments if they want to make music.
Thank you, Paul.
So personally, for me, I love the sound of the balafon. It sounds like pure crystal to me. But let's hear from you as a balafon expert. Let's start with describing or mentioning if there's any change within the traditional and modern playing technique of the balafon. Does it vary from region to region? What do you think?
The differences in the sound that can be made on the balafon, of course, in playing hard and soft, that's one thing. You can muffle a sound by touching a key with one hand or with a stick and playing it at the same time. But a large difference for the balafon compared to other xylophone type of instruments, I think, is the buzzing sound created by making a small hole in the calabash or gourd and covering it with a membrane that vibrates during playing. And that is a specific sound that you hardly hear anywhere else. So another thing that I would like to point out is that I know a couple of marimba players who are discovered also the balafon, and they like this traditional way of playing because it's new for them. It's also not always very easy because their playing technique on marimba is quite different according to these movements that you make on the balafon. For example, the left and the right hand in the West African balafon, they have this independence. While when you play at one point, one hand the accompaniment and the other hand is playing a melody or a free solo or whatever. So that is a thing that's special to marimba players, also for professional musicians.
Interesting. You mentioned this slight difference between the balafon and other xylophone-like instruments like the marimba. The buzzing sound that comes with the balafon. Thank you so much for clearing that up for us. So let's go into the next segment. The rate at which technology is transforming our world, it's astronomical, right? And as Africans, we need to plan for the future on how to preserve our instruments so we don't lose it. So, what are you and other custodians doing to ensure the knowledge of this instrument is preserved and passed down to the younger generation?
My teacher in Burkina Faso is Yusuf Keita, and he has, for a time, a dream to start also a balafon school for children in Bobo Dioulasso. And there are more initiatives like that. I try to help him with that, with the idea and how should you do that. And one of the things is that he wants to try to pass the borders of this griot tradition, where the music only stays within this family and is taught from father to child. But so he's starting with his balafon school to be open for all children that are interested in the neighborhood, and also not only the boys but also girls who might like to play balafon. It's not common in West Africa that girls play balafon, but they open it up now for as an important thing as well. But main thing is to reach out of this tradition and make it broader and reachable for other people in the community who are interested in making music and making balafon or other traditional music. So that's one way of trying to preserve and pass on the music history and the cultural habits in this world. And well, my contribution is to write down as much as possible and to try to make this system of playing the balafon, a technique that you can learn also in the West to learn to play balafon, and with modern ways of learning, and not one by one and listening and playing again, but also with paper and sound files and videos, and that way that you can learn the traditional pieces. That's my thing as well. So that's my small contribution to preserve part of the balafon culture in Africa, and I hope at one point also African people have benefit from that.
Interesting thoughts, Paul. We all also appreciate your effort in helping preserve these beautiful instruments with your breakdowns on techniques and skills. What innovations and adaptations have you seen in balafon making and playing in the last decade or so?
It's difficult to say. I visit the traditional playing people all the time in Burkina Faso or Mali, and I don't see that it's much involved by modern technique or AI or all those things that are coming onto us, and because there is a value of the tradition, and it's what the people know, where the Balafons play for. They like also the traditional songs and playing. So I haven't seen that, I must say.
Thank you very much, Paul. It's been a very interesting conversation. So, if you take a look at the piano, you've seen a lot of other instruments being pre-recorded on the piano. If you take a look at the piano, you have drum beats, you have trumpet sound, you have that. I think that it's time that we start to push for that also, to say that African instrument sounds should also be put on instruments like this. I know if you look at the organ, you don't see pre-recorded sounds there, but we've seen the piano take on different sounds being pre-recorded. So you can have a child playing chords and then also introduce the drum into it and then create his own song. Why can't we have that? And I think it's something both Africans and both Westerners that are taking interest in the traditional African instruments can start to champion, to say that for the piano, why don't we have the Mbira sound, the bara drums, the balafon, we have the alligator, have all those pre-recorded. I know that the pentatonic skills, just as you said earlier on, is different from Western instrument, but I think we can start to champion that in our own little way, to say that the electronic sounds that are being made, let's start to include these African sounds so that we can take them beyond those that are just interested or those that visited Africa, but we can take them outside. So if someone in Australia today buys a piano, can also enjoy the sound of the balafon while he's learning to play the piano instead of the drum set alone. So just my own comment to that. I don't know if you are for or against that, but I think that's my own comment to that.
I think that would be very good as well, to implement these African sounds of African instruments more into this electronic playing things.
Very valid thoughts, Anu, and also thank you, Paul, for emphasizing that for us. This last discussion we just had kind of brings me to my last question for you. I don't know if Anu has any other question before I go into that.
Yes, I have one question for Paul. What was your aha moment? Like that moment that you just, I don't know, just connected, minus, like probably maybe you were playing it or you were making it. You know, there are sometimes that something just happened, just connect with this thing beyond the surface level. Do you have that aha moment in your interaction with the balafon?
Well, the first aha moment that I encountered was when I already liked the balafon music, but found that I could really copy that a little bit when I heard this cassette and started playing the balafon myself. So that was a really exciting moment. But another thing to say is that, not perhaps really aha, but it's more a deeper understanding that at the moment that I understood that the Balafon culture is the heart of several ethnic groups, and telling everything about the culture, and learning from the teachers not only to play but also the stories behind every song. Then I thought, okay, that I'm becoming part of this culture. And some of my friends in Burkina Faso, they say, okay, you're a Burkinabe at this moment. So that is also something that's gone very deep in understanding the culture there. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you very much, Anu. And thank you, Paul, also. It's interesting to hear your experiences and encounter with the Balafon instrument. So, for my last question, what do you see as the future of this instrument in both traditional and modern music?
In traditional music, I see still a great role for the balafon in West Africa. It's a great valued instrument, and people can listen to modern music there as well. But when the balafon is played, it's always good. When I have lessons there, nobody complains about that there is balafon music all day. So I think the people love the balafon in West Africa, and so there is still a good future there, and the recognition of the strength and the value of the balafon is also higher on government level. I mean, so that is a bright future still, I think, and gradually it'll get a more important role in contemporary music, but that goes with the introduction of balafon music more in the West, and other musicians, they see it and they think, okay, well, let's join that into my Western band or other orchestra thing or whatever. But that'll be gradually evolving, I think.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Paul. I'm also looking forward to when the balafon and other African instruments are going to make their stand into modern music. Thank you so much for that, and thank you to our listeners for being with us on this journey as we discussed the balafon instrument.
Thank you very much to our listeners, and thank you, Paul. It was a fantastic conversation, I must say that. That was the balafon through the lens of a Dutchman.
Well, it was my pleasure as well to be able to talk about my passion and to give my insights for the African Music Library. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Paul. This episode was brought to you by the African Music Library. Subscribe to our podcast on Just Play Music and follow us on our social media at AML by Just Play.